What's up, everybody? It's your boy DJ Kdot at the party. Uh, I'm your host with the most. Uh, how's everybody doing? This is the Kdot experience. I have a wonderful and special guest. We got a treat for y'all today. Definitely gonna go down. Okay. Shout out to my YouTube community. Wanted to say hello to what's up, Lou? Howard County Observer, Hustler 604, Ellie in the building. She will be moderating and making sure y'all are on y'all best behavior, including me. Including me. I guess. Also, I would also like to introduce uh, my wonderful co-host, my ride or die. Uh, we go through everything together. We went to jail together, all that. Literally, I got a little bit more better treatment, but uh, but I would like to introduce you to my co-host, MLH in the building. How are you, sir?
Doing good, man. Although I do take exception to one thing. I'm the
Yeah.
host with the most. I'm the host with
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I would also, we got a special guest today, right? Like we got
yeah.
a, she
You,
is absolutely wonderful. What I appreciate about this next guest, she won her election honestly in the old school way, and she actually talked to people, you know, and that's what we don't get a lot from a lot of politicians. She takes the time and she cares about her community. Uh, so I appreciate her for that. So let me go ahead and bring her on, Miss Councilwoman Alli Jackson in the building. Y'all give her a round of applause.
yay!
Hello.
How are you, ma'am? How's
I'm doing
everything?
well. It's a busy Monday, back from the holidays, back to the grind.
I feel you. I'm definitely broke. Uh, I would definitely fit that brokey.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, after the holidays. But don't worry, I'm a hustler, so I'm gonna get it back up. We always run it up. You know what I'm saying? We do that. We do that. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is because I do things a little differently. I want to give people their flowers, and I want them to give. You are a young person, and if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I
I
am
don't.
30.
You're 30. She just hit that 30 club. Well, I remember I was 30. Well, I remember that. Yeah. So the thing is, I want other young people to be inspired by your story. So I want you to give them a background history of what inspired you, what lit the fire under you to be like, all right, I got to get out here, I got to do out, and I got to do something for community. So
Yeah.
we'll go with that first, and then MLH will ask his list of questions, and then I'll ask my questions, and then hopefully audience members go ahead and put your questions in the comment section. We got 34, 33 people in here today. All right, we lit today. All right. So they were excited to see you. So I
Great.
want to give you that opportunity. So what got you into politics, and what lit the fire under you to accomplish your goal in being a city council woman?
Yeah. I got started in politics. I come from a multiracial family, so there was always interesting conversations at the dinner table. I'm the youngest of five. The oldest is now, I want to say, I'm 30. Oldest is around 55. So there's a
Oh,
long span between my
okay.
siblings and I and our parents. And so we would always just talk about anything related to race, anything related to class. So I always had that little heightened sense of like there is this system that's happening around us that we don't talk about in school. You know, when I was being brought up, the norm was you don't talk about race, you don't talk about these things out in society, so nobody talked about them. um, and so having that knowledge that there was this kind of like there are all these issues that society tells us not to talk about, my family talks about them, I'm a lived experience of some of these like injustices and lack of access to resources. So what's going on there? So I've always just had a curiosity for social justice. And then
Okay.
being from Aurora, I'm born and raised. My parents came to Aurora in 1975. It's all I know. And so I'm very protective of it, especially since it's so special in its diversity and its makeup of, you know, Black, brown, poor, immigrants all over the world. We've got folks here. It's something to be protected. And so I've always felt kind of protective of my hometown, Aurora. So when I saw people like Jurinsky and Sundberg and more conservative folks who are taking, you know, that diverse perspective, that diverse audience, and twisting the narrative to fit a more conservative agenda, to the point where we had Operation Aurora. Even, you know, this past week, I think Trump name dropped Aurora in his capture of Maduro, saying, well, look at what happened in Aurora with the Venezuelans. So, you know, I was just so sick and tired of hearing that. And I was like, I've got the resources somewhat. I'm educated. I don't come from wealth. I don't have generational wealth and things like that. I'm not a business owner.
Okay.
But I've got the education. I've got the passion. So how can I put those two things together and run for office? I'll just throw in lastly, I was involved with city council. I'd show up to the meetings. I talked to Crystal Murillo, who was my previous council representative. And we built a professional, personal relationship. She started putting me in trainings for politics. And we just mapped it out in 2027, or not 2020, that's the next one. 2025 was the year to enter the race.
So when you mean by training in politics, like what was that consist of? Like was there like
Yeah.
a curriculum or something, or
So there's
explain?
various organizations, specifically in Colorado. One is called New American Leaders. They focus on people who are children of immigrants and get them
Okay.
political training. So it was a Friday to Sunday, in person, intense. Why should you be a leader? What is your leadership style? What would your platform be? Write your speech. You know, practice your speech. And then they had representatives there too. So I got to meet people like Julie Gonzalez, Juan Mercano, who was a Aurora City Council member at that
Right.
time. So it was
Right.
networking, it was education, it was also like get amped up. Like in that training, I realized I don't see myself as a leader. And even though I had a master's, you know, I had a home, I was a foster parent, I was a biological parent as well. I never saw myself as a leader just because of imposter syndrome. And so those trainings were really helpful for that. And then I took another one that was kind of hybrid. They're just all over, and it just helps you to get connected with people because everybody knows somebody who did this, who did that work, who is aligned with Aurora in this way, or they want to endorse you that way, or they can donate or host a fundraiser. So it's just really about showing up to these spaces.
Okay. All right. And I appreciate you doing the work to get to that particular stage, because that's important. It's kind of like the same thing like when I was doing cop watching. I didn't want to be just a bystander with the camera, so I was in the a law library for 3 to 4 years, studying the laws on the First Amendment specifically, and other civil rights leaders, and learning the municipal codes, the statutes, uh, the Constitution, all of those things, because
Absolutely.
it is imperative that I know this. I don't want to say the wrong thing, and then I end up in handcuffs. Well, I mean, I've said a lot of the right things, and I still ended up in handcuffs, but still,
There you go.
I was able to still beat the case, you know. Uh,
Yeah.
and I have a score 4-0 K.4 cop 0. They have still not um prosecuted me with anything yet. And you
Well, I
won't
think what
because I don't
you're
break the
talking
law.
about, it's so interesting because with Police Academy, I think it's like less than a year long, and they're getting
Yeah.
trained on the law in there, and then they're enforcing the law, where a lawyer studies for, it's an advanced degree, 3+ years, they have to pass the bar. And so what you're doing is very intelligent. I think it speaks that you're 4-0, because sometimes when folks arrest you, that's why educating people on their rights is
Hmm.
so crucial, because you can get arrested, you can get the ticket, whatever, but you got to stay calm to fight it in court, right? Because
Yeah,
then when
for
you
sure.
get to court, that's when charges can be dropped.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know it's super cool to be the boss of the city manager and the police chief. Big boss, okay? You
Or
answer
yeah,
to
gotcha.
her. That's just, well, I just had, I had to throw that a little bit in there. And again, we appreciate you. I mean, so let's start. I guess from your childhood. Like, what I mean, did anything? Was there a political figure that stood out to you, or maybe an activist that stood out to you? Was this like, what? I see myself doing that possibly,
Mm.
or was it, or maybe not? Maybe you were like, no, I didn't think. Because you asked me, I would have told you, activist. I would have laughed in your face. Uh, yeah,
No,
right.
totally. I kind of came in by way of empathy and English. So I was like, I really loved creative
Mm,
writing in high school and when I was younger. So reading stories from like Toni Morrison, The Bluest Eye, and watching this little black girl who just, basically goes insane because she wants blue eyes and to be perceived as beautiful. When you're watching all the dysfunction of her family and abuse and just extreme poverty, just ravish through this little girl's life, like stories like that really like
mm,
I empathize with them, because I did come
okay,
from a really nice family, but there was dysfunction, mental health issues, alcohol abuse, things like that. So I
gotcha.
really identified with underdog characters and characters
Mm,
who were deemed wrong, and I did grow up religious, so there's like, that moral compass thing, but I was always curious. Like I said, I was just curious. I'm like, how, if we have a God that is so loving and created us in his image, like how can we be created with sin? And how can, if love is the base of everything, then where does punishment come into play, and why, and like how does that work? So I was always just asking these larger questions. I was like in the advanced classes, AP,
okay.
all that stuff. So I had access, my education was kind of my escape, and it was where I was able to be creative. And it pushed, when you educate, that's why they're coming after the Department of Higher Education, because education is a key to freedom. Because that's when you do read speeches from MLK Jr., Malcolm X. I watched his documentary in my high school US history class. Um, that's where you can start to put the pieces together to say, let's critically think about what I'm watching and how do I apply this to life. And then being in Aurora, we've had poverty. I've had access to very diverse populations, and seeing people on corners, it just never sat well with me. I'm like, if we're one of the richest countries in the world, why then
Yep.
do we have homeless people?
Mm.
Yeah, that. Well, and I'm glad we've gotten that, because this I will leave with MLH, and he'll ask his question. So, uh, MLH, go ahead and ask.
Yeah, I'm actually really surprised, Councilwoman, to hear a council member actually address that. And I'll ask you about that. Like, what are your initial plans to kind of help with the homeless population in Aurora? I know Denver and Aurora have been doing this back and forth, fighting over the homeless. The homeless don't know what to do. They get kicked out of Denver,
Mhm.
then Aurora kicks them back to Denver. But back and forth. And it seems like to me I know this to be fact in Denver, and I believe it true in Aurora as well. It seems like both of those cities have it in their head that it should be illegal to be homeless.
Mm,
And I always, I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but in my view, the homeless are kind of the most vulnerable of our population.
mhm.
So why should they be punished for being poor? So my question to you is, I know that Aurora has exactly one shelter, one place where is being it's always full.
Mhm.
I can't remember what they call it, but it's on Victor Street in Aurora. They have another.
Comitis.
What's that?
Is it comitis?
That's it. That's
Yep.
it. And when Kdot and I went over there, I wanted to interview somebody from them because they were under a lot of pressure, and I know this coming year they were looking at huge budget cuts, and I feel like it should be the opposite. I feel like if ever there was one cause that we all need to get together, there's two of them, and they coincide, but it's raising money to help that places like Comitis and also mental health facilities. And I'm wondering if any of that stuff is in your purview as a council member.
Yeah, really good question, and thank you so much. There's been so much movement around our unhoused neighbors in Aurora, and I'll start by saying Comitis it has historically for a very long time been the only uh, shelter in Aurora. However,
Mm,
we have that new navigational regional navigational center, which is being pitched as a one-stop shop for resources for unhoused folks. There's tiers, which is a little I need to do investigation. I'll say I was appointed the head of the Horns Committee, which is the committee that deals with everything housing. So I'll be over that for the next year. So I will be doing some digging, but with the the regional navigation center, it's over where the old Crown Plaza used to be. So they flipped it, they renovated it. It was a multi-million dollar project. We were actually able to take funding away from public safety and put it into this regional center. So in a sense, we kind of defunded the police to make these resources happen.
mm,
We did have like a surplus of grants and things like that because nationally people understand unhoused folks need help. I think a lot of people agree with you. It's just some of those loud mouths and people who do want to, criminalize homelessness. They want folks to pull themselves up from their bootstraps. They can't understand why, why are you unhoused? And there's such a stigmatization. People, I just saw a statistic that said the percentage of people who have jobs who are unhoused is upwards of 45%. So we're
Hmm.
talking about people who are working jobs but still cannot afford a place to live. So they're sleeping in their cars, in shelters, on the streets. So we have got to rewire what we think about. When we see the hardcore folks who are having like mental health crises on the corner, they look really disheveled, maybe unhygienic. That is kind of an outlier of what homelessness is shaping up to look like. Realistically, that one, they do a survey and there's about 600 of those hardcore unhoused people in Aurora. That's 600 people. I'm thinking, why can't we find space for 600 beds? Why can't we find space for 600 small houses? Like that would solve that hardcore problem and then let us look at that middle piece of families, people who are working, people who we just don't have a good livable wage in Aurora to sustain their budget when it comes to housing and bills and groceries. Um, so money and funding and resources is a big issue. I've already asked the question of why have we not built more affordable housing? The response
mhm,
I've gotten is we have built a decent amount, even though it's not enough. And two is that the land. So we're talking about land rights now. We need people or we need folks to understand that we don't own the land. And that was a surprise to me. The city of Aurora has sold their land off, and that's where developers who have multi billions of dollars
Hmm.
come in
mm,
and then can build. So nobody's going to say, here, have this free piece of land, build some free housing for people, because nobody profits off of that. So it is a little bit of a mind shift. But some ideas, we're going to do some assessments on the navigation center. I don't know about the tiered approach because I believe in dignity. I think people who, even if you're unhoused, even if you're a drug user, things like that, you still have worth and you still have a right to dignity when it comes to accessing services. You shouldn't have to work for anything, especially because, like you're saying, they're at a deficit right now. So we're just adding on more responsibilities to somebody who obviously can't handle responsibility for whatever reason it is. And so they're just going to fail. So I'm really going to look at some of the policies and practices and procedures of how we are uplifting these folks. And are people moving through the tiers, right? Are they advancing? Or are we just creating another bottleneck of insufficient resources that people come to, and then it's like putting a band-aid on a broken leg.
Right.
It's not going to fix the problem.
Right.
So, Ellie had a question for you, one of our audience members and moderators. She says, Alli, I understand you're a social worker working with the mental health and unhoused. My question is, how do you feel APD treats people with mental health issues and the unhoused?
I will say there has been, especially with this past city council, because city council sets the presidents for our police department, our police chief, of how to respond, how to act. Previous
Okay.
city council wanted to criminalize homelessness. What does
Okay.
that look like? Writing tickets, apprehending people, physically removing them from corners, even if they're in a mental health crisis, even if they are highly traumatized and being touched by a uniformed officer is triggering to them. And so I don't support any of that. I believe compassionate care. Compassion needs to lead our intervention processes altogether. And I will say there's a special heart court that is opened up. It's like a solutions court where if somebody gets a ticket for trespassing or open containers because they were unhoused and that's what they were doing, but then they go through the steps of a program, they can then go to the special court, and once they've fulfilled all their responsibilities, that charge will be dropped and off their record. So there's solution courts that are popping up, but again, we need the data. We need to see how they're running to make sure that they're doing what they say they will. But I believe in compassionate care. I think police need a lot more training if they're going to be responding to mental health crises. We do need to work more with like our response team we have, and then more social workers. I mean, when I was on boots on the ground after I graduated working with unhoused folks, I was going into motels off of Colfax, doing just mutual aid, talking to folks who were dealing drugs, engaging in sex work, extremely
Okay.
poor, and it was fine. Like, you
So,
just have to know de-escalation tactics.
so,
Okay.
along those same lines, I was highly disappointed. I mean, I lived in Aurora for an extensive amount of time. I don't live too far from Aurora, obviously. But I do care about the Denver metro area in general. And Aurora is like, I mean, I'm very passionate about Aurora. But one of the things that disappointed me the most was when the government in Aurora decided to put up a bunch of signs saying,
Mm,
"Don't give, to panhandlers, give to this
Mm.
organization." That didn't set well with me because, first of all, you're telling me what to do with my money. As a government agency, I don't think it's their place to do that. Second of all, that cost the city quite a bit of money to put up those signs. And third of all, why are you discouraging compassion? You know,
mm,
I'm
Mm.
I wouldn't consider myself an advocate, but yeah, many times you can see me on the streets of Aurora, Denver, Lakewood. I go down Colfax because that seems to be a lightning rod of places to find homeless people to help and service with food and clothes and whatever I can get my hands on personally to do. Um, why is it that the city? I know you haven't been a council member for very long, but I think one of the things to look at is why the city spends needlessly on things like that, for one, and not pour their resources into mental health facilities, drug rehab centers, and also, places like shelters. And I'm wondering what your idea is, what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, and MLH, thank you so much for your service in our community and like being up to date and watching the news. I was right there with you. I think it was like now 4 years ago when they put those signs up, and they spent upwards of almost $100,000, and I think in revenue they've only gotten like $30,000 back.
Yeah,
Wow.
But I completely agree with everything you're saying. I mean, we saw it on a federal level where they tried to make panhandling illegal, asking for money illegal, and it got shut down because freedom of speech, you can't do that.
Nope.
People can
Can't.
ask you for money, it's not illegal. But there's just this mentality, and it existed very heavily on the past city council. And who knows if they actually believed it, or if they were just trying to push a political agenda forward so they could keep their seats, they could, appease the Republican Party or whatever. But it's like this: pull yourself up from your bootstraps, right? We don't want to give handouts, right? We want to give hand ups. Like it's all this coded language where it's like, I think that I need to do my research. I really do. And I haven't been a city council person that long, so forgive me. But there's other cities that did a study where they gave people, unhoused folks, money, hard, cold
yes,
cash, and watched what they did with it. And the outcomes of that were better than any sort of resource center or case manager, just
yeah,
giving folks money.
yeah.
And
You're
like
you're
I said,
yeah.
in a country where we have billionaires, it shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah, you're talking about a universal basic income, which that was one of the things that Andrew Yang said. I'm not a huge fan of Andrew Yang, but one of the things that he said that resonated with me was a universal basic income, especially for people that are in need. I mean, there's this perception that once people get money, I get this criticism all the time when I go out and I try to help as many homeless people as I can, or unhoused people, is that all you're doing, whether I give money or whatever, they say all you're doing is helping a drug addict, you're helping an alcoholic, to which I say, so what if I am,
Mm-hmm.
I'm maybe there's a person there that thinks that that act of kindness might help them. And if you give people money, I mean, the first thing that I want to do is I want to get into a house, right? If I'm homeless, like there's nothing cool about being homeless. There is
Right.
a certain subset of homeless people that's what they want, and that's their choice.
Right.
But the vast majority would not be there if they didn't have to be there. So I think that's actually a really good thing to look into. But this sort of dovetails into the police, and then KDOT can get into the police aspect of this. But I personally witnessed them intimidate homeless people in
Mm,
Aurora, and shoo them along, move them along. But when I'm there, they won't put hands on because there's somebody watching them. But can you imagine what happens when somebody isn't watching them? And
Right.
that's why KDOT and I do what I do what we do with the cameras, is to make sure that there's accountability. I know there's a stigma upon cop watchers and First Amendment auditors and all this, that all we're doing is trying to cause a ruckus or whatever. Nothing could
mm-hmm.
be further from the truth. Do we cause ruckuses? Yes. When we see injustices? Yes. But the main purpose of what we do is to hold people to account for their actions. And I think the city council should take more of a stance on. So, what are your thoughts on that? Like the city council actually, maybe, I know KDOT's going to get into this in a minute, but maybe an oversight board, that used to be there, but was
Mm,
jettisoned with the previous council and stuff of that nature. And then I'll let KDOT, because I'm gonna have to leave in a few. But I'm wondering what your thoughts are on, like, maybe producing a citizen oversight board
mm-hmm.
that's not governed by politicians, but by actual citizens, and also an actual board with some teeth that can really put forth discipline for police officers that are um, doing unlawful conduct.
Yeah, thank you for your question. I completely support the independent civilian board, commission, what have you. And actually, Janina and Amy Wiles have teamed up and they're hosting 2 listening sessions that are open to the community in January where they're starting to have those conversations. They're going to educate the community on the benefits of having an independent civilian review board. What is it? How do we have it happen? And then get input from the community as to, is this something you're comfortable with? How would you like to be involved? What would you like the process to look like? So I completely support that. And I'll just say from city council standpoint, I really want to get my hands on to the procedures, like our hiring process. Why are we
Mm-hmm.
hiring cops that have dings on their records and big dings like lying to judges on record? So why are we recruiting at a Trump rally? These types of practices need to go. Those are not practices that are suitable for Aurora. And I think I have a lot of hope that with this new city council, we can shape a response to homelessness, our police, into something that is community focused and community led. So I completely support it. We're talking about it. Check out Janina Horton's webpage or Amy Wiles because they've got the information for those community meetings.
Awesome.
Yep.
One more question that I have for you, and then I'll turn it over to Kdot because I mean, Kdot is legendary, and he's gonna say no and all that. But my question is, um, I mean, there's so many. I mean, I could probably be here for 2 hours asking you questions, but I don't want to take up Kdot's time and your time. But you hit on something that I've already exposed, the hiring process. I've exposed the process to where they actually had to change it a little bit and have the chief more involved in the hiring process. Before it was a committee, I think of 3 people that decided whether or not somebody would be hired. But I exposed. I know you're probably not familiar with Douglas Haroon, but the hiring process is atrocious. This guy I mean, he was there. He had so many red flags on his record that he should never have been near any force, let alone the most diverse cities, police force in
Yes.
all of Colorado. So, I mean, there's so much. I've said it's hiring, it's ongoing training, it's getting rid of the old guard that still has
Mhm.
still has the old mentality of the way that they used to police and bully and all these tactics that they still do to this day, which you can see on both KDOT's and my channels extensively. I mean, there's so much wrong, and it has to start with a little bit of accountability, with like an oversight board and hiring and stuff like this. KDOT, take it away, man. I know you have 50 million questions. That you know.
Oh, and I do.
Yeah.
So now I'm just gonna let you, you know, and thank you, MLH, for those great questions. I appreciate you for those. And before I get to my question, I do have another question from uh, Ellie. She asks, Alli, in the past, I someone from Aurora City Council deleting public comment on the Aurora City Council YouTube channel. Now comment section is turned off. Can this be corrected? And what she's referring to uh, is the Aurora or Aurora channel, and that basically being um, they don't have any comments. You can't put comments
I see.
on
So
and I think that's in a way sanctioning and suppressing people's. I mean, they can do it, but I mean, should they do it? Because I think just because some people might not have time to go to the city councils and they may want to put a comment in there on YouTube and they're not able to do so. Is there any way that we can look into reversing that particular process?
yeah, I can talk to the folks. I'm assuming that's like the YouTube channel that
Yes, ma'am.
broadcast our meetings. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll double check into that. I'll say I love like as much community comment as possible. I wonder if there was an incident. I'll get to the bottom of it and learn, but I don't support like the hate speech and things like that. So
For sure.
that's the only thing I could think about. But it's we got to turn the comments back on. Like we've already changed public invite to be heard. That was one of the first things we did on
Hmm.
December 1st. So I will look into seeing why the comments are turned off.
All right. All right. I guess it's my turn. Well, first of all, Mrs. Councilwoman, are you ready?
I think so. I'm getting
Are you
ready.
ready for the hot seat?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for being here again. It is a pleasure, and it is for you to even be here. So thank you for even agreeing to doing this with me. And I think we had talked earlier before you actually won the seat, honestly and with integrity, that I was going to have you on the show, but with I don't know scheduling things that was on me. I didn't get the chance to have you on the show, but you're here now, so let's get into it. When it comes to it seems like the chief is a numbers guy, right? And
Mm-hmm.
he puts all these stats and statistics and
Mm-hmm.
everything like that when it makes him look good. And my issue with that, why isn't that he puts the numbers of police misconduct, uh, those numbers up, or because he talks about he reversed the whole the no chase thing, and why isn't those numbers up as far as the opposite, or the pessimistic side of that, of the no chase thing, because there's been several accidents due to this, which can harm other citizens. So what is your thoughts on that?
That's a good question and a really good perspective. I can't speak for the chief. I mean,
Okay.
I could have some ideas, like whenever we're all in our professional roles, we always
Okay.
want to toot our own horn and we want to shine light on the things we're doing good and kind of, like sweep the things that aren't going well or projects that we forgot about under the rug. So I wonder if he's just trying to stack the data to tell a story, right? Because with data, I
Hmm.
love data, it tells a story, right? But we can manipulate that data to tell the story that we want, and that's biased. So in my personal opinion,
Right.
we should be reporting out on the bad just as much as we're reporting out on the good. We should look at areas of growth, opportunities, risks, all of that. So I think your point's very valid, and it's getting my wheels turning. It really is. But I
Okay.
don't know why. I don't. The only thing I can assume is he just wants to look a certain way. He wants to push. He wants to control the narrative.
Okay. And I respect that, and I appreciate that answer.
Yeah.
Um, so so when it comes to the board, the Citizen Civilian Oversight Board, um, how many people are you actually thinking of maybe having on the board? Because I believe it was last time. I believe it was 12. Are you still thinking it's to be 12, or should it be smaller? What is your insight on
That
that? If
I think they're going to figure that out in these meetings. So I would really show up. I'm trying to be respectful. Janina Horton has so
Gotcha.
much like deeper knowledge because she does police reform and criminal justice reform in Denver. So she's taken the lead on
Okay.
the civilian independent oversight board and committee. My thoughts on it though is just having a balanced. I don't know if it's the amount of people, but making sure there's community members, there's maybe community leaders, maybe a couple elected officials, maybe like even fire and police. Is there some representation there? Like I like balanced, diverse board so we can have
Mhm.
multiple perspectives. So it's not just a bunch of the same people in an echo chamber.
The
Okay.
the
So okay.
I'm sorry, Kdot. The
Go ahead.
problem that I see with adding anybody from police or fire is the inherent bias that they already have towards their agency. And that's why I say it, if there's an oversight board, it should be citizen based. And I don't think there should be politicians on it either, because with all due respect, politicians have agendas, and citizens have one agenda, and that's to prosper in the current system that we have. And if you get that perspective and you have like a check and balance with police and fire and all that, that's the only way that you're going to get one, because the police are already protected by the law, and they're already protected by their union. It's been,
For sure.
I mean, there's so many protections for them, but there's really no protections the other way around. So I don't necessarily agree with having somebody from police or fire on that board. I think it should be purely people based, like citizen based, non-politician, non police person. I think Kdot would be great on that board, by the way. There's my
Yes, I mean, I agree. I 100%. Maybe I misspoke. I meant like maybe a civil. Everybody's a civilian. So like if they're retired or they're like
yeah.
just somebody who has that perspective, because I think there is something to say, and Janina will even speak to this, like, police see a lot and they are being traumatized. And then if they're being traumatized, fed through this racist, sexist, oppressive system, it's just a recipe for disaster. So that's where I'm just like somebody who has like maybe some insight, but like they're civilian. Everybody's got to be a civilian. And
Yeah.
thank you for checking me on the politician thing as well.
No worries. Hey, I gotta go, but Alli, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I hope that I'm hoping for big things from this board, because Kdot and I have been, let's just put it this way, we were rooting for a different outcome in this particular council, and we're happy that everything that we wished for happened, and we're hoping for a more first of all, we were hoping for an even more diverse council, for the most diverse city in all of Colorado. And I'm hoping that Kdot and I can work with you guys a lot better than we worked with the previous council. I don't know if you have heard Kdot's fiery speeches at council, or my fiery speeches at council, but we are more than excited that the council looks a little different now. So appreciate your time, Kdot. Thank you so much for having me. For my audience, this is Ms. Alli Jackson, and I'm looking for bigger and better things. I appreciate you.
Yeah, nice meeting you.
MLAs, thank you for joining us. Appreciate that. I guess I'll finish it up here.
Yeah, he's gonna have to finish.
I still got more questions
to get to.
And not only that, we also want to get to the audience, so they can have more questions for you as well.
For sure. Peace out, everybody.
Speaking of, we had a situation where the chief snuck into Aurora, and I mean that figuratively and literally, because of Jason Batchelor. Sorry, Jason. And he knows this because I gave him a verbal beat down, if you may. The thing is, when it comes to choosing our chief of police, it is very much community oriented, and it's very community based, and we are collectively knowing what type of chief that we want in our community. And when it came to Todd, that didn't happen. The city manager completely. I don't know what happened. Oh, she'll come back on. So basically, she'll get back on. So basically, here we go. There she's back. There we go. So basically, the current city manager had basically uh, snuck him in there without community input. How what systems are you going and city council are going to put in place to where that if this Todd gentleman doesn't work out, and I don't think he will. I don't think he'll last very long. Um, I haven't met with him yet, but uh, that's going to be interesting. He's willing to go on camera
Have
with
you
me.
reached out?
I, I've he said something in the news clipping, and he stated, "Give me a year. Give me a
Mm.
year, and then you can judge me." Well, year's up, buddy, and Judgment Day is here. So, Jason will be setting up a meeting with me, and I told him it will be recorded. We will be live. Because I'm going to put you in it. It's not even going to be called the hot seat. It's going to be called hell. Um, on Earth, the type of seat he's going to be in. But
Yeah,
in this particular, the question that I'm asking
yeah.
is, how do we are we going to look? Are you going to look into setting up placements or policies to where that does not happen again? To where if we do decide to get another chief or whatever, and making sure it's community input, and to where uh, Jason just doesn't hire anybody without community input. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so I had this conversation a little bit with Jason, because this was brought up in public invite to be heard at our last
Mm-hmm.
um, city council meeting, and the response I got was that in our charter there is no technicalities saying we have to host a public anything when we hire the police chief. But previously, folks had held public forums for the police chief
Right.
hiring, or let them, had a little talk. I think there was some like political tension. It might have been during the pandemic, and so that didn't happen. However, I would to change the charter. Anything we change in the charter has to go to a vote to all of the
Right.
city. So
Right.
that's the process. However, as city council, we can basically say how the process for hiring the police chief. We can put strong recommendations in there, regardless of if we're doing exactly what the charter says to do. So we will support. I support public input. I think they said the Chiefs used to do like a some sort of like talking or like coffee with the chief or something when they were on the hiring process. Um, so I would support that.
Okay. So you are able to, and you and possibly other council members can vote on something as far as a new charter reforming that particular.
Yeah,
Is that possible?
we could. I just say like we can put it up. We have to all vote to get majority to put that on the
Okay.
ballot, and then the
Okay.
people of Aurora, we have to get majority of those folks to vote for it. So it's
Okay.
possible. But in the meantime, we can put recommendations out there. We just have to have majority support from our council members.
Okay. Cool. Next question is police reform. What does that look like to you, and what is your ideology on that?
Whew, that's a big question.
I
Let
told
me
you I'm
think.
coming with it.
Um, I think it looks like we got to update our practices. Like we are stuck, Aurora was founded like I want to say early 19th century, and we've got to like update our policies and practices
For sure.
just to have more compassion. I'm a DEI practitioner. I train, I do DEI trainings at my current job. I'm really interested to see what the DEI training looks like that we give our police.
Okay.
And I think it's again, I'm always going to go back to that mentality. It's like, like I never have an option to engage with police outside of them being uniformed with a gun. Like how can we create more opportunities for like I are even to understand what police are, what is their function, what is their role, why do they wear a badge, why do they have a gun, like what are their procedures, why do we have a shoot to kill as the baseline of our, you know, procedures, why do we not have like shoot to maim, or like, you know, go through this checklist of non-lethal uses of force to use
Mm-hmm.
beforehand. So, you know, it's such a big question. And I just, with my expertise, I hone in on the DEI, because I'm like, are police having compassion for the people they're engaging with? Do they see them as nuisances? Do they see them as thugs? Or do they see them as a daughter or father or a teacher or a community member? I believe wholeheartedly we can change the mindset of people. It just takes a lot. It takes trainings, it takes follow-up conversations with your supervisor, it takes regular check-ins, it takes exposure. You know, are these police going back to their all all white and wealthy communities outside of Aurora when they clock
Mm-hmm.
out of the day?
Right.
How are we looking at these things? I'm really about culture shifts, and culture
Okay.
shifts happen all over the place.
Okay. Okay. And so there have been it's starting to be brought to my attention, and also my anecdotal experiences
Mm-hmm.
of police officers uh, conspiring warrants and them not being signed by judges from Aurora Police,
Mm.
or a situation to where that maybe a judge did sign off, but it was for to not proceed in the probable
Mm.
cause, and they're going behind the judge's back, or they're meeting with other people that they're buddy with, and still coming up with the warrant, but still not being signed by a judge. How are you going to look into this to make sure that this doesn't isn't a precedent uh,
Yeah.
practice in the Aurora Police?
Well, Kdot, with your police reform question and this one as well, I should just back up and say, listening to the community, right? Like
Okay.
we saw the Kylan Lewis family come time and time again,
Yeah.
pleading to be heard, pleading for
Yeah.
something to change, and they were not heard. So
Hmm.
I always let the community lead first. So I think I've already, I agree with what you're saying about these warrants. They're very wishy-washy. So what I
Hmm.
plan to do is I forward those emails to the correct staff that will then do an investigation, and they come back to me. I am like 99% sure previous city council folks, due to their majority that they had, were not pushing those communications through. And then,
Okay.
you know, there are so many injustices that are happening across Aurora that I think the few that were on our side, like Allison Coombs and Crystal Murillo, just they didn't have enough capacity to really do a thorough investigation. But now that
Okay.
there's more of us with the similar values, similar mindset, we take integrity very serious and the law very serious, especially when it comes to, you know, warrants. We're going to push that through, and there's going to be enough eyes on the issue that it's not going to fall through the cracks like it has been.
Okay. Okay. Uh, Obviously, we had something that happened over the weekend that
Yes.
was pretty detrimental to the community and young people. Um, there was a situation that uh, I guess there was, a traffic stop that happened. The guy went to the house, negotiators and multiple uh, uh, vehicles and units were there, and a negotiator was negotiating for him to come out the house with his fiance, and they were still um, abused with their hands up. There's several videos of it. Um, how do we combat this situation? And would it be something to look at, is to hold the police more accountable if they had individualized insurance instead of it being just a blanket cover of insurance over the entire city of of the police.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think watching those videos, um, one thing that's just on my mind is what's the escalation policy? Why were
Hmm.
there so many? Like SWAT, multiple vehicles, like for one guy. Like I don't you would think that there was like an armed shooter in the area based on the
Right.
response from the police. So I really do want to look at what that's that fear based thing. Like, did they see a black guy and we're like, oh, he's got like, he's a threat, and so let's call
Right.
everybody in. And they it's a nice neighborhood, like big houses, very nice.
Right.
So there was some disconnect there.
Okay.
And it's just I'm gonna go back to that, like re-educating folks. I don't, like how are we perceiving Aurora, right? We already
Right.
have a terrible perception in the news where people are going to automatically assume we're gang ridden, we're poverty ridden, things like that. So then is that seeping into our own police department where they're now
Right.
looking at everybody as the enemy, and they're there
Mhm.
to terminate, things like that. So I'm going to fall back on that. And with the insurance question, I'd have to do a lot more digging.
Okay.
But I think what you're getting at is accountability, right?
Yes.
Because if a cop shoots somebody and they were in the wrong, their insurance rates are going to go through the roof because nobody
Yeah.
wants to cover that cop.
Right.
So I like that thinking, and I'm all about holding our police more accountable, because there is just so much immunity that they have that that in my opinion, I don't think they should have, because when I go to my job, granted I don't have a gun, and like whether or not carrying a gun like signifies importance or not is questionable,
Right.
or a badge. But if I make a
Right.
mistake, I'm going to be held accountable, and
Right.
even sometimes, if you make a mistake to a certain point, you're going to get fired.
Right.
So why am I being held accountable for doing work at a library at a higher rate than our own police are, who
Right.
have such high responsibilities on their shoulders? So
I
I
agree.
really want to hold our police more accountable.
Right. And I think I have maybe just two more questions.
Okay.
It you're not getting hot yet. You're not.
No, I appreciate. I
uh,
just wish I had more. We should do this in a year again, and I'll
yes,
definitely
absolutely. Well, and
have
I'm gonna have you
some
back on
more
the show, and
police response.
hopefully, I'm doing
Okay.
okay. Am I doing all right? Am I doing
You
all right? So you
yes,
coming
you
from
are.
from the mental health, right? I
Yes.
do as far as giving grace to police, because I always tell on my channel, I always say, look, if you're on my channel because you want me to have a negative interaction with the police, it's just not going to happen. That's not natural. I've had,
Mm,
I've shouted out multiple police officers who did a good job, even in city council meetings by name and employee number. So because I want them to get recognition and everything, and not only that, there's several of the officers who's come to me and be like, "Hey, when you gonna record me, Kdot? You ain't put me on your channel yet." I said, "Well, it's an audit, so you never know when I'm gonna come." You know what I'm saying? So always operate in the place of integrity and self policing, and if I highlight you, then I'm gonna highlight you. Um, and I also encourage my audience, hey, don't make sure you guys view that too. You know what I'm saying? Not just all the bad, because you're missing the education part of it, to where we're comparing night to day. So my question to you is, do you feel, because I think that it should, do you think each officer should be at least do at least 1 month in counseling in therapy, at least once a month throughout the year? Would it hurt to talk to a therapist just to randomly? It's kind of like a checkup, right? It's kind of like you doing on your car. You can only go so many miles before you can have an oil change or a filter change or something like that. But with our mental health, because they see a lot, I'm sure they seen death, they seen especially, I know that probably affects them with children and stuff like that, or older people, or just in general. Uh, is there a way that we can make that a requirement because if we're going to be putting all this money into weaponry and all this other stuff, I think their mental health is more important because then they know how to deal with the public. So, what does that look like to you?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll start by saying I think everyone should be in therapy, in my opinion.
I
Like
agree.
that's just my baseline. I think it's always good. I
I
think
agree.
there's very like white Western standards of therapy, but I think like having, even like a podcast or like coming on and talking with other people about your feelings and things that are going on in the community that are impacting you, it's so beneficial for your health. Um,
Okay.
and I'll just back. And then before that, I did sit down with Chief Chamberlain, and one thing I appreciated that he said is that the police are the community. Like they have the same problems with addiction, with abuse, with family issues, money, whatever. You will find those same issues within the force. Just once they take their uniform off, who they are as people. And so absolutely, I think they need to have access to those resources. I think their counseling is free. And then there's psych evaluators. So what is that psych evaluator? What do they look for when a police officer has been involved in an incident, to clear them to go back to the field, to clear them to make sure they're okay? And then what's the psych assessment look like when we're onboarding? Police officers as well, when we're asking questions about race and poverty and their ideas about that, how is that being graded into their profile, where it's like, okay, this person clearly has a bad bias towards unhoused folks, so let's not leave them by themselves over off at East Colfax, because they're probably going to go run rampant, and like there's not some good things that could happen for that. Or is that another training, outside of mental health? Do we have learning and development in our police department as a department that looks at trainings, modules, podcasts, YouTubes, all of it that police need to be exposed to expand their learning as well? So I think there's a lot of angles we can go through, but police do need their mental health is very important, especially because they hold weapons that can take lives.
Yes.
And I will say, I know policies like their days off are structured so that they won't just go home, go to sleep, and go to work the next day. They get, I
Okay.
think, a minimum of 48 hours at a time off.
Okay. Okay. That I think that's
So there's
important.
things I think it's interesting to look at. Yeah.
So, what about is it? Do you think it'll be a good job or a good part for it to be a requirement for them to speak to a therapist, since it is free, and then
I think
also
I think so. Yeah. The only thing I just don't want to misspeak is it might
okay,
already be required. I
okay,
mean, it might already be happening, but because we haven't updated our psych evaluations to the 2026, we just had a new DSM, which is a diagnostic statistic manual that came out, taking into account the pandemic and how does that impact people's mental health,
right.
like are our forms up to date? Because as a mental health practitioner, I was shocked at how forms control your world. Asking a question, checking a box. Do you have these thoughts? Do you have access to weapons? When's the last time, you did something that made you happy? Do you have trouble sleeping? It is these forms. And then you run the form through the computer and it spits out, oh, this person could be depressed, or this person might have a trauma response, or try this medication out. So are these forms up to date, and asking the most culturally relevant questions, because mental health has been run by white, cisgender, wealthy men for a very long time.
I would agree with you 100%. And thank you for answering those questions. I had some of our audience members might have a question. Ellie again, question: why do APD allow officers who was in uniform in a police vehicle passed out on drug allowed to keep their job? And
Yeah,
I think
that one
she's
I do have.
referring to the Nate Meyer situation.
Yep. And I will say that's because addiction is protected by the law. If you have this isn't the same case for, I know there's gonna be like, I got fired because blah, 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 blah. And I get you. But to the book, since we're state employees, if you show up to work drunk and then you have like an an alcohol dependency diagnosis with a mental
Mm-hmm.
health practitioner or a doctor somewhere, and then you get fired for that, the city can then get sued because it's discrimination against a health issue. So that's where I'm thinking. I would
But
have to
does
do a
that
lot
have
more
to be?
digging though.
But that does that have to be properly diagnosed ahead of time before, or
I
does it have to be an
That's
actual
a good question.
diagnosis before you guys to get sued? Because if you didn't know he was diagnosed with that, there would be. I'm just I'm sorry to
I
interrupt. Go.
know. And you can't ask those types of questions during hiring process because it's
Mm,
that's illegal.
yeah,
Now you're getting into HIPAA because
yeah,
it's a medical diagnosis.
yeah.
So there's just a lot you don't know. So I couldn't really speak to that, but hopefully he did not get put back on, like the streets. Hopefully he's behind a desk doing paperwork.
Well, I can update you with that now. He got promoted,
Oh,
and he's a detective.
okay,
Uh,
well, I'm gonna have to do some more digging because
and I know that didn't
I'm
happen
hoping
during your
maybe he
time.
turned
I know that
around. Maybe he
you
didn't
were
leave.
you
I
were a
don't know.
civilian at that particular time, so that's not on you. But again, we want to try to be proactive at certain things to where if we don't pay attention to history, we're doomed to repeat it, right? So
Yep.
we don't want to be in that particular situation. So let's see, a illegal weapon should be. It says illegal possession of a weapon should be a felony for cops, but it is not. Okay.
I have to look. I don't know much about that.
Yeah. I don't know about yeah. We'll have to look into that, audience. um, but I wanna thank you for my hot
Of
seat questions.
course.
And they were really like very very mild. So
It's my first time on the show, K
I
Dot.
think you did good. I think you did good,
Thank
and
you.
uh, so I appreciate you, and thank you for coming on the show and answering these questions, and not only that, but actually allowing people to hear your story because I think uh the audience loves you for sure. That I even put on,
Aw.
they like you. They're like, oh, I like her, and they're very brutally honest, even with me. Uh,
Yeah,
so
when I accidentally went off, I was reading the comments because I was like, "What are they saying?"
yeah,
But it seems
so
good. It seems okay. But please hold me accountable. Put me in the hot seat. And K Dot, thank you for all you do. And you've been in constant communication. You are very brave. And I'd love to have you on a podcast and talk about what it's like to be a cop watcher.
please do, please do. I would you let me know. We can set that up. We can definitely set that up.
Yes.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to do that because um, I think sometimes we can be misunderstood in a lot of the ways because of how our style. And honestly, to tell you the truth, I think I'm misunderstood within my own activism community.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
I'm sorry, I don't go around singing old Negro spirituals and saying "We shall overcome." I'm sorry, that's just not. I again, I'm not knocking.
Everybody's got their own
I'm
flavor,
not look because
right?
I stand on those people's shoulders. So I'm not disrespecting them. It's just what I'm saying is that what I do it gets done. We're going to get stuff done around here. So
Yes.
that's the thing. And I care about my community. Thank you for and you took Sunberg seat, right?
I took Jurinsky's seat.
Who was it? Was it or
It's either because
was
they
it
were two at large. It was two at
because
large. I
you're
don't know
at
who's gonna
large,
say they
right?
took out Jurinsky. I'm at large, yes.
Okay.
Amy took Sunberg's seat.
Oh, okay. Oh, Amy took Sunberg and you took Danielle. Miss Piggy seat. Got you. All right. That's right. Kicked her ass. And she I know she's mad about that 200,000 she spent. Hello.
Oh yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And what you did was honorable. You did it with integrity. You were open and listening. Uh, and you were nurturing. Your campaign was I feel I thought you brought a lot of femininity to it. And uh
Aw.
and and the reason why I say that is because Danielle was more masculine and abrasive,
Mm,
and
mm,
it's that no. What you did was you used your superpower, which is a lot of women's superpowers, your femininity, your
ah,
softness, your because there's a difference between softness and weak. Weak is fragile, it breaks
mhm,
easily, it's you know what I'm saying, it's brittle. It
yeah.
with softness, it conforms, it comforts, but it also empowers, it uplifts, Uh so I appreciate your style as far as your campaigning, and I appreciate you being here on the show. And before we leave, I would like you to, you know, wrap it up with your final thoughts about what we discussed and what you know. The
Mhm.
floor is absolutely yours, ma'am.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. And I'll just say, if you're young and you want to get involved in politics, please reach out to me. You can email me, message me, find me on the city council website. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Um, but I will say, please just keep believing. We have to keep the hope alive. The other side wants you to be fearful. They want you to feel alone, and they want you to think that you don't have power. And that is not true. By you just existing, by you waking up and breathing in the morning, you have power. You have power to choose what you do with your time. You have power to use your voice to speak up. You have power to reach out to the communities around you that are doing the work already and need your help. Somebody needs your help out there. So just don't get discouraged if you start reading the news and doom scrolling on social media. Take a walk. Put the phone down. It will still be there, but you got to take care of yourself. So take care of yourself and know that you have the ability to create change no matter what madness you read in the headlines.
That was absolutely awesome, and I thank you so much. I thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for taking the time. We did a little bit over an hour, but that's okay. Uh, and I know I know you're a very, very busy woman, uh, and I want to reserve your time. But I definitely want to have you back on because this was fun. This was
Perfect.
definitely fun.
It was so
Uh,
fun. Thank you,
uh,
Kdot.
and informative. So I appreciate you being on the show, and thank you for being on here, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate
All
you. And
right. Have a
everybody,
good
give
week.
her a
See you
round
later.
of applause. There you go, John. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you for being here on the show, man. On the Kdot experience. Thank you. So thank you guys for being here on the show. I love and appreciate my audience. Thank you so much. Thank you for the comments. Thank you. It's so imperative, and I don't know. I'm just floored. Got to interview a great politician in the making. She might be president of the United States one day. You never know, y'all. So I'm very hopeful in her integrity and her plans for the bright plans for the city that she has, and so that's it, y'all. It's your boy DJ K at the party. And if you need to reach out to me, go to k.copwatch@gmail.com. If you have a story that you want me to cover, I will be doing more and more of these Kdot experiences. We're bringing our shows back. So I appreciate you guys for rocking with me. And for MLH's audience members, I appreciate you still rocking with me too. If you haven't joined the channel, please, you're definitely welcome because My family is MLH's family, and MLH's family is my family. And thank you, Mama Ellie, for keeping me in line. I think I did pretty good. I didn't cuss not one time. So so thank you guys. I appreciate you guys. Until next time, I am out, and I love you.